the Purpose-Driven Entrepreneur Podcast. We're all about delivering great content, thoughtful discussions, and tips and tricks to help you truly get the most out of your life and business. And here's your charismatic host, me, Matt Brauning. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Purpose-Driven Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm Matt Brauning, of course, and this week has been awesome. If you listened to the podcast earlier in the week, you heard some big news Monday. So go back and listen in the archive. It'll be on the Tuesday's episode. Actually, is when it dropped this week. My family and I are making a big move. We are moving across the country to Michigan. I talk all about it and explain everything about it. So check out the last episode if you haven't seen it already. It's super exciting, and we got a lot going on, a lot happening. So over the summer, I've been organizing quite a lot of really great interviews for the podcast. And what we're going to start doing, basically starting now, is twice a week. We'll still come at you, of course, and you can consume it on Facebook. We'll be putting up the interview podcast on Facebook and up on YouTube, of course. And then you can get it on iTunes or Stitcher or Spotify, however you get the podcast. But it's a pretty cool thing. We're going to be doing 2 different kinds of podcasts every week. And I've been sort of following that, but I guess I'll say I've been getting my voice over the last 4 months, getting this thing launched since February. So now the way it's landing is this. 1 time a week, I'm going to come at you on Facebook Live, and we're going to do a 15-20 minute, getting into a nugget, a topic that I think all of us entrepreneurs and everyday awesome people want to know about, whether it's procrastination, getting over procrastination, or motivation, or sales, or leadership, or team building, or whatever that is. That'll be fun. And then 1 time a week, I'm going to grab an interview with someone that either is a friend of mine or an entrepreneur that I've had a privilege to meet, and really dive into their brain and their story and look at the origin stories of what drives us internally to do and create what we've done. So I'm excited about it's a subtle format shift, but it is happening starting this week. So without any further ado, we have an interview today. And the interview is with someone who's become a fairly close friend, Kerry Tepedino. And I say fairly because I really have only known her for, 6 months maybe. And, as you say in the interview, it's kind of like we're like soul brothers and soul sisters in a lot of ways. Well, I guess not sisters and brothers, but I'm the brother, she's the sister. The point is, she is in the holistic health space and does health and mindset work, does live seminars. I've been to her event. She's going to be speaking at my event coming up in July. And I thought, it would be really cool just to catch up and chat with Keri and get into some insights. She is everything from, she's been a certified nutrition counselor, cranial sacral therapy. She was deep into yoga and teaching yoga, holistic health practitioner. And that was a lot of her personal business. So since 2002, she's been doing private coaching practitioner work, which again, probably a lot of you listening or watching would relate to that and want to know some tips and tricks on how to make that work. But then over the last 10 years or so, she's transitioned much more into the expert in teaching space. Really a phenomenal human being. She's blended online marketing with holistic health in just a phenomenal way. She has a great thriving business, enjoys time with her family, and then puts on literally, I think it's like 1 or 2 big events a year and fills the rooms. I was there in January in San Diego. It was absolutely awesome. A ton of great people there, really just engaged people. So I'm excited to introduce you to Keri. In our interview, we talk about all sorts of things. We, no holds barred. These interviews, I go as raw and authentic as possible. I'm not asking the hard-hitting questions, but what I'm doing is I'm just imagining I'm having a cup of coffee or like herbal tea or something and hanging out with someone I want to get to know better. And as much as I've known Keri, I didn't know a lot about her story as it came out during the interview. So if you know Keri already, you'll get a chance to get another side of her. If you've never met this person, a wealth of wisdom and a really authentic, enjoyable human being to be around. We get into some of the challenges with eating disorders from early on in life and what it was like growing up in her family. With her parents, she'll tell the story. It's a very interesting way that how her dad was around. And and ultimately how she fell into and then overcame eating disorders. And we talk a lot about how, my book is Total Freedom from Addictions. We talk a lot about how addictions, just like eating disorders, are not that dissimilar from drugs, alcohol, and other things like that. So really, again, really good candid talk about that. And then we get into something she's doing coming up, and we'll talk about that throughout the interview and at the close. But without any further ado, I hope you enjoy this. Kerry Tepedino. So it is you and I yet again. We're back. I feel like we just did this a couple of weeks ago, but the roles were reversed, and now you get to be in the hot seat. I get to interview you and pick that amazing, beautiful brain of yours. Kerry, how are you?
I'm doing awesome. I
Yeah.
actually love, Matt, that you and I keep collaborating. I mean, this is like our third collaboration just this year.
Yeah.
And I know that we have something else we're speaking at together in August. And it's like, and July, I
Yeah,
guess.
you're
So, I
coming to my
mean,
event in July.
yeah. So I love, I feel like you're my
Uh,
brother in crime. So fun.
I hope so. We're doing this on video, so if you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook or something, you can see the terrible gangster pose that Kerry just did. If you're listening on the audio only, you have to imagine she did like it must look like I do when I'm singing in the car. My wife just like looks away and goes, "Please stop that! Please stop that!" I put my hand out the window. I'm like moving. It's terrible.
So
But
funny. That's
it is
hilarious.
good to have you back. How has life been? I was just speaking at your event. It was a few months ago, I guess now, January, right?
Yeah, it was
Uh,
January. It's amazing that it's been as long as it's been, right? I mean, time, it's like, I don't know, Matt. It's kind of like time, like we're in a time warp. It's like, it's just going faster. I don't know if it's because we have kids or I don't know. It's crazy. Like the
I
days can
bet
be long,
everyone.
but the years are incredibly short, right?
Yes, yeah, yeah. Short time feels like forever, and then but a year feels like it's been a few minutes.
Yeah.
What have you been up to in the last couple of months or the last few weeks? I know there's a ton. What have
Yeah.
you done? I know you're getting right in the middle of this launch for this huge virtual health summit. We'll get to that in a second.
Cool.
But you're in the health space, I guess. I mean, you
Yeah.
could call it that, but I know there's a lot more than that. What's going on? What's new and bright and fancy in the health and wellness space?
Well, one thing that's really cool that that's coming up is I think that people are more and more aware that your health and your well-being. So I work a lot in the weight loss industry, but as you know from working with me and being on my stage, it's way more than the weight conversation. It's really about mindset, emotional mastery, relationship to self, and it's taking the inner work and it's marrying it to the science. Not just weight loss, as you've seen in our audience, we have a lot of women who don't have weight issues, but they just want to like really step into a higher level of being an exceptional human being and self-love and self-respect. And so
Sure.
one of the trends that I see that are happening that's really great is just this up-leveling in consciousness around how we can be so powerful for ourselves when we've learned the right tools and we've skilled up. And this isn't a conversation about just, gut health and just calories in versus calories out or working out every single day. I mean, that's part of it, but there's this much bigger conversation because we're holistic beings
Sure.
and everything's related. Your mental health is affecting your physical health. Your physical health is affecting your emotional health. Your emotional health, I mean, it's like, it's beautiful and it's organic and it gets to be fun and it gets to be messy and it gets to be hard sometimes and other times it's full of grace. But the beautiful thing is like when you're really committed to up leveling your game
Mhm.
and being the most vibrant you possible and stepping out of your own way with self-sabotage, when you're really committed to that, you get to decide. Every moment is another decision to say yes to the life and the health and the happiness you want, moment by moment, moment by moment. It's always another
Sure.
recommitment. And I think it's
Mm.
kind of cool because I think it's catching on more and more globally.
I mean, I hope so. When I first got exposed to, and again, I'll just for lack of a better term, I'll call it health. What do we want? Like awareness, I suppose, holistic awareness. When I first got exposed to it, the very first time was with Tony Robbins. He does his 4-day Unleash the Power Within, and he does 3 days on mindset and habit changing, a lot of the same sort of work I do based on NLP.
Yeah.
And then on the fourth day, he does a health day. And, he always said like, hey, this is the day that doesn't sell, but everybody needs. So I put it as the fourth day. And, it's a thing like I always say, like in business, it's much easier to sell an aspirin than a vitamin, right? Where everyone knows they need a vitamin, but it produces long-term results. You pay for it constantly, but you pay for it now, so you don't have to pay for it later. Where aspirin solve the headache like today. So
Right.
Tony always put this health thing as day 4. And man, I went there the first time and they talked about, the power of oxygen and just, hydrating and alkaline and acid and green juice and, raw versus cooked and dehydration and meat. And, so I became a vegan after that for a good couple of years. And I went home and I took out everything in my kitchen. I went to my friends and I was like, "What do I need to do to be healthy?" And they said, "Oh, you got to get a dehydrator and I got a Green Star, a twin gear juicer and I got a Vitamix blender and like I had to get all this whole kitchen thing." But it had to be 2002. So I think I was 21, almost 22.
Uh-huh.
But it was the first time I really looked around and went, "Oh my gosh, like what feeds my body? What's healthy? What do I want?" And I was first starting to put in mental, right, food in my body by going to these seminars, but I'm putting in like physical, really good food and changing the way I exercised a little bit. And that was my first introduction to it. And ever since then, I've just been, whether I'm uber healthy or just kind of, in a vacation mode, as I call it.
Mhm.
I've been on a great kick as of the last several months, really being, eating clean and doing a lot of this health work. I find it fascinating when I don't have that many friends that make their vocation what they're passionate about in the health and wellness space.
Mhm.
It's not, and again, I hope this doesn't come out wrong. What I'm trying to say is it's not the easiest thing to make a career around, and you've done very well at that
Mhm.
because you also like you embody the principles and you teach the principles. And I think you're one of the few that can really pull it off well. So I admire you for that.
Thank you.
What is it like? Well, I guess let me back up. How did you really get into that in the first place? You
Yeah.
how old were you when you started thinking about, hey, hang on, there's something else going on here. I shouldn't just eat McDonald's, or I shouldn't, just let the person who cuts me off make me angry. Like
Right.
what did you do to first get into this kind of stuff?
Yeah. Well, thinking back, interestingly enough, it was probably in high school that I started to become more wanting to be more active. And it's so funny, this has never come up in an interview in all this time, but if I were to be really honest and really to think about it, I started to I joined a gym and I started to swim laps every day after school because I was grounded. And I wasn't allowed, like I got in trouble with my parents and they grounded me and I wasn't allowed to do anything with my friends for like, I can't remember if it was like my whole senior year or something. Like I got grounded, but they would let me go to the gym. And so I
Are you
started to go to the gym and I started to feel better because I was like exercising. And it was because it was like the only thing I was allowed to do. Funny enough.
and how old were you then, you said?
I mean, so that's like, how old are you? You're probably like 17, 16, 17.
16, 17. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, funny if I really look back at that part. But with that being said, so that got me interested in like exercise, and I started reading like health magazines and stuff like that around then. And I was still really interested in it in college. And but with that being said, that wasn't what really took me into doing this as my life, like as my career. It really was more the painful parts of my health, my the painful moments around my health. And when I was a little kid, I had an elder in my life, somebody that I respected, and every time I was around them, I interpreted it as a little girl that I wasn't good enough. Like,
Mm.
don't shuffle your feet when you walk, don't scrape your fork when you eat. And I think I was called turkey ball because I had a round belly. And so it
Turkey
was
ball.
like, yeah, like,
What a
and it was
horrendous
just
name.
like, I know. And even if they didn't really mean it, it really affected how I thought about myself. And even like, around the feet and the, shuffling my feet and my fork scraping, like in my head as a little girl, I was like, God, if I can't even walk right or use a fork right, I must not be able to do anything right.
Wow.
And so it just kind of seeded in me a story about who I am and what I'm capable of. And I actually had a really good childhood. You know, my mom and my stepdad raised me. I had a great childhood, but having had the influence of somebody else in my life, not my mom and my stepdad, it really did impact me. And then when my life became stressful later on, like in college, when my life became
Hmm.
stressful, I kind of pulled back into that story and that way of thinking, as most of us do, right? We're so heavily influenced between the age of like 3 and 7, and we create
Sure.
these ideas about ourselves, and then we start to recreate them throughout our life to prove to ourselves we're right. See, you're not good enough. See, you can't do it. See, you aren't worthy. And so it was really in college, funny enough, I don't usually talk about this on an interview either, but I mean, I'm an
Hey,
open.
this is what we're doing. Now, what was the
Yeah,
stress in college? Was it just like
fitting
being in
in.
college, fitting in? So it wasn't like the classes and the finals as much.
Not so much.
It was the
No, it
people
was just
side.
it was the people side. And I
Hmm.
mean, I've always had a lot of friends and stuff, but you go to college. Well, first of all, in
Did you go
freshman
away
year,
to college?
I went to Chico State. Yeah, so I went away to college, and so it was the first time I was on my own. And you at the cafeteria, they have all the sugar cereals. I don't know, maybe it's cleaned up now. I'm in my
Probably
mid
not.
40s, so yeah, I don't know. But it's the first time you have everything accessible to you, and I just kind of went hog wild, to be honest.
Oh, because
And
so now you're away from home and you're like, this is everything's available to me. I don't have to just get what my mom bought or my dad bought.
yeah. And I can eat late at night, and then you're like, you have
No
weird
rules.
schedules and no rules. It was a no rules situation. So I kind of went crazy. I gained weight that freshman year, like most people, freshman 15 is a thing for a reason.
Is it?
Yeah. And then what happened in my sophomore year is I had actually gone out with friends, and we had been partying. I drank too much. I came home, as a kid will do, and I threw up because I was just so drunk and I was spinning.
Oh
And
my
then
gosh.
and the next morning, like, we had eaten when we got home, we ate when we got home, and then I had thrown up just because I was so sick. And then the next morning I woke up, Matt, and I was like, oh, wait a minute, I can eat and throw up and not gain weight.
Oh my gosh.
And it had never crossed my mind before that, ever. And I already had tendencies to think I wasn't good enough, right? And
Sure.
so that started a whole cycle of bulimia,
Oh
and
wow.
went into eating addictions for a good portion of the next, decade or so, and it just was really what it really was. It was a way for me to try to feel in control of something, because I felt out of control in other areas of my life, just
Hmm.
as like a young kid trying to figure out life. And obviously what that did is that totally backfired, and it made me feel even more out of control. And so then what happened probably about 20 years ago is stress had come up in my life again, and I went
Hmm.
back to those old tendencies, even though that wasn't something I was really like engaged in. I went back to those old tendencies, and there was a moment where I found myself on my bathroom floor, and I had super stressed with a deadline at work, and I had ended up binged and then purging, or trying
Yeah.
to purge, you never really purge it out. Found myself on my bathroom floor, and my heart was racing, and
Hmm.
I got terrified in that moment, because in that moment, I knew that I was actually killing myself, because I had a good friend in college whose mom had died of an eating disorder because her organs failed.
Oh my gosh.
And so I had this real life example of what can happen if I continue to do this. And it just was like, with my heart racing like that, I knew enough to know that my electrolytes were imbalanced. I was now affecting my cardiovascular system, and nothing good's going to come of this if I keep doing this.
Wow. So
And
this is very similar to, I mean, a drug overdose or being in a certain drug for a period of time where you can see the effects on your body, the effects on your
yeah,
mind, the effects on everything. And I wonder, people that haven't experienced that, right? Especially different eating disorders. I wonder how people would think of it, right? Because I think sometimes with an eating disorder, it feels like, again, just from the outside, I'm imagining, someone who's never experienced it, going, oh, well, that's a choice, that's a behavior thing. Whereas you see someone who's addicted to drugs or an alcoholic, you might think, oh, that's a little more physical, that's a little more involuntary almost. And now I don't see it that way. I feel like all of these ultimately it comes to very similar. I never considered
It's
bulimia,
very
anorexia,
similar.
etc., very similar to a drug addiction. And I'm the guy who wrote Total Freedom from Addictions, the book. So,
It's
so I,
very similar. Yeah. So you might just have a supplement to your book now.
yeah.
It is incredibly similar because the
Hmm.
addictive mind is an addictive mind. And when you
Can
really
you say
think
that
about
again? The
it,
addictive what?
an addictive mind is an addictive mind.
Oh, hmm.
But if you really think about it, I mean, for somebody who's an alcoholic or uses drugs as their vice, so, and I'm not saying that one addiction is easier to get over because I think they're all hard to break,
Sure.
but I know for a fact you can always do it. It's a decision if you
Absolutely.
have the right strategies and the right people around you. And like we've had a couple women who have tried everything out there to break an eating addiction and could never do it until they came and worked with us. And it's not like we're working just with women with eating addictions. It's not that at
Sure.
all.
Well, that's your story and what you went through, but I'm
But I
assuming
can help
there's yeah, that's
them.
one
Yeah.
example of a lot of different ways that we hurt ourselves, we put off the things we want, we get into bad habits, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden
It's a habit. Yeah.
a day turns into a week, turns into a month, and all turns into a decade. And you
Right.
wake up and go, "Oh my gosh, this isn't me. Why now I'm fat. Now I'm addicted. Now I've been living this lifestyle and that's not me." I think all of us
Right.
can relate to that to a certain extent.
Totally. We all have some type of vice, right? But even listen to this, Matt, is like, let's say that you're an alcoholic or you use drugs, recreational drugs, and you're addicted. Well, food is something we absolutely must have to sustain life.
Right.
So there's this whole other element for somebody who has a sugar addiction, who's an emotional eater, who's a stress eater, who's a binge eater. There's this whole other element of you actually need to have your drug of choice. You need to have it to live. You
Right.
don't need cocaine to live. You need calories to live or
Right.
you're shut down, right?
You
And
can't stop
so
eating cold turkey, cold turkey.
right.
Like,
So there's this whole other element to breaking this type of an addiction, whether it's a sugar addiction or emotional eating or night
sure.
eating, stress eating. They all have these pathways in the mind, and so it's just very interesting. So that defining moment on my bathroom floor where it was a wake up call for me. I can either keep doing this and I can slowly die, which is what I am slowly killing myself,
Wow.
or I can get up and turn my life around. And thank God I chose that. Ended up studying around the world with monks, studying with Ayurvedic doctors, looking deeper into myself, doing deep meditation work, breath work. And I just dove so deep into all of that. And it really is why my business, which you've been exposed to,
Mhm.
my business birthed itself
Hmm.
because I really feel like when you've had such a defining moment like that and you've been able to turn your life around, it is just the right thing to do. Like, I feel a responsibility to go out there and help other women who are having a bathroom floor moment pick themselves up
Mm,
and get their life back on track. And as a good human being, it's just the right thing to do.
sure. Wow. And now you started this a while ago. I saw when I was doing my research on you.
Yeah.
Of 2002, is that when you really like started off with doing the health consulting business, or is that when you got into like health certifications and kind of doing the work? When did the
Right.
coaching consulting business start up?
I'm so bad with numbers. So I'm really bad with this. This is that time warp thing we were talking about. So I actually had a private practice for about 10 years here
Okay,
in San
gotcha.
Diego.
Hmm.
Yeah, where I would see people face to face. And I was a yoga instructor as well. And I was a massage therapist. I was a cranial sacral therapist, which is trauma resolution work. I was a certified counselor in nutrition. So
Yep.
I was even making my own spa products. I mean, I kind of did a lot,
Just
right?
went into all of it.
I just did whatever I loved. And so I had that business for a long time. And then I got exposed. I was introduced to a group of friends who were very successful internet marketers. And I was like, whoa, what is this? Like, what are you guys doing? You're sitting at home in your surf shorts, doing work you love, making a massive impact on people all over the world.
Yeah.
And it just blew me away. I'd never seen that business model before. And so then I made a commitment to myself. I made a 2-year goal, and I reverse engineered what I needed to do to replace my in practice. Well, actually, I took a year to study all the moving pieces. Then I created a 2-year goal, and to replace my in-practice income with online income. And I actually did that before the 2 years. And that's how I ended up moving virtual. And now, super excited to say we're helping people all over the world. I work just with women, but we're influencing people all over the world.
Sure.
And just to help them see that there's a way out, and there's another way to be in relationship with your body, with yourself, with food, with eating. There's a way to master the mindset, as you know, the emotional mastery, all of that. And it gets to be a fun ride. It gets to be a messy ride, and it gets to be great if you allow it to be great.
That is awesome. So when I want to back up and ask, when you were starting that private practice, so what were you doing for work just before that? Like what was life like, or were you working, or what was going on just before you started?
Yeah. So before I got into the health industry at all, I was a graphic designer, and I was a graphic designer for a software startup. And I was just doing, I was doing online user interface design and development and stuff like that. A lot of cool stuff, print work. Yeah, really cool stuff. I love design. I actually love designing, but when I really started to get into all the health stuff, it was just clear that this is what I have to do. I was called to do this. Before I was a designer, I was a Peace Corps volunteer, and I lived in a little fishing village in Poland on the Baltic coast. And yeah, I know.
I don't think of the Peace Corps going to Poland, but
well, we're not there anymore. This is a long time ago. Yeah, we're not there anymore.
How long were you in the Peace Corps?
2 years.
I didn't realize that.
25 months.
What prompted that? What was the thought?
Yeah, so this is a great story. So my grandma had moved to Kenya to teach English, and my grandma, who we call her Tutu because she was Hawaiian, and Tutu means Hawaii, grandma in Hawaiian. She was actually the teacher of Barack Obama that he always talks about, Mabel Hefty, like his most favorite teacher who influenced him the most. That was my grandma, his fifth grade teacher. He writes about her in his book. He talks about her all the time. Yeah, it's really cool. Wow. So Tutu had moved to Africa, which was her connection to Barack, when she had moved to Africa to teach English, and she loved the culture. And then when he, because his family his dad's side was from Africa. So then when his mom moved him to Hawaii, my grandma really influenced him to be very proud of his roots, his African roots. And so that's how that whole friendship and relationship happened. Wow. But when I was growing up, I grew up with like zebra drums and African masks and stuff that my grandma had gotten in Africa. And I romanticized it as a little girl. Sure. And so I wanted to live in Africa. And I figured, okay, I'll join the Peace Corps because at least somebody will have my back in case something goes wrong and I won't be totally alone, right? And so I applied for the Peace Corps, and while I was in college, about to graduate, I applied for the Peace Corps, and I'm allergic to something that they use for malaria sometimes. Okay. And so they said, well, basically, you're not going to Africa on our bill, but we have this other invitation for you to go to Poland. And it was so funny because I was living in Hawaii at the time, and I remember being on the phone call, and I was like, Poland? Where's Poland? Just like, hello, Keri. Right?
Where's Poland?
I know.
It's near the Vikings or Russia or something. It's up in that area.
So silly of me because I had actually lived in Germany for 3 years as a kid with the Air Force. So I should have known where Poland was.
It's pretty cool.
But anyways, yeah. So I get off the phone and I just said to him, I said, okay, well, if you feel like I could do a good job there, if my skills match, I'll go. When do I leave? And they say, okay, you leave in a month. And I'm like, a month? I'm like, okay. So I hang up the phone and I turned to my roommate at the time and I said, okay, so I'm moving to Poland in a month. And he's like, what?
Oh
And
my
we
God.
pull out like, this is like when you still had atlases, like maps at home, right? And that's how you
Yeah,
looked
yeah,
at
yeah.
things. And we pull out this atlas and we're like, we like dust it off, open up. And we're like, oh my God, I'm moving there. And off I went. Yeah.
Wow. So
Yeah.
you said when they said if you can we can match your skills or whatever. So what was your role in the Peace Corps when you were in Poland?
My skills were that I spoke English.
And that's all that was the most important thing.
The most important thing, that I spoke English and that I had a graduate degree. I think that was a requirement at the time. I don't know if it still is.
Wow.
Yeah. So the fact that I could speak conversational English as a native speaker, that was my assignment. So I went to this small town called Kłobrzeg,
Okay.
and I taught in high school, in the high school there in the town, and I taught conversation English.
Oh my
And
God.
then I started like you do outside jobs and projects. You get to choose projects. So I started some English clubs for the Polish teachers of English, and I
Hmm.
would meet with them, I think, once a week so that they could practice on me.
Yeah.
And then I had another club for professionals, like, so that was like the priest of the town and the doctor of the town. You know, they would come and they would just practice their English on me. And then I started a self-esteem camp for young girls as a summer project with some of the other Peace Corps volunteers. And we each brought I think 2 girls from our schools from all over Poland, and we met in this little village in the middle of the country, and we renovated this barn into this camp for girls just to kind of expand their thinking, to help
Wow.
them understand their value and their worth, and to kind of expand their thinking that they have to just live in their village. Like, we brought in some professional women from, I think it was Warszawa or Warsaw or
Okay.
Cracovia, which is Krakow, to talk about their professions and just show them like you can do whatever you want.
And this
And
is you at like 19, 20 years old or
yeah, this was me
18,
at
19? You said right after high school you went over for a couple
right
years.
after
Oh,
college.
right after college.
So
Okay.
I was 20, I think 21 or
Wow.
22. I guess I would have been 22.
Was the self-esteem like classes, was a lot of this your like kind of creativity or like initiative, or was it something that the Peace Corps had an idea they wanted to do and said, would you be interested? How did that come about?
No, we created it all. We were just given free reign, like, do whatever you think you could do to serve, to do a
Do
good
something that would
service
help.
work, do something that will help.
Wow. What a
And
great
I
project then.
Yeah, and so I actually have a BA in visual communications, and so I loved art. I wanted to be an artist at the time, and so I was in charge of the like art, self-esteem through art.
Hmm.
And so I sent the girls out into nature, go collect things, and they came back and they made portraits of themselves, and we made an art gallery in the barn, and really cool. I actually just did something similar in a health retreat that we did for some of our clients just recently, something similar. And the goal was that some Polish natives, so people from Poland, would actually take the project and run with it and keep it going annually. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. But it
Mm.
was
Mhm.
great for that year. It was definitely made an impact.
Wow, what a time. So you come back, so you're, I mean, obviously having a lot of international exposure, a ton of
Yeah.
different people, cultures, everything else. Um, w when you moved into the holistic health space and you said, I'm going to do this for a profession, what
Hmm.
was it, where did this fall in on the timeline for like your bathroom floor moment? Was this like
Yeah.
years after? Was
Years
it,
after.
okay,
Yeah, it was years after, because after that moment, like, I went into years of deep self-discovery and reflection, like
sure.
years of it.
Really working on yourself.
Just really working on myself. And then from that place, then I started to do even more, like, I started to get even more interested. And then so I worked on myself for years, and then I started to take classes because I was just really interested in it. And
Hmm.
then I don't even know if I really thought I would have a full business, but it was just more like I was so hungry for healing.
Sure.
And then, interestingly enough, what happened was at that software company, they were getting acquired. They were either merged or acquired. I think there was an acquisition, and they basically started to get rid of the marketing department. And there really were only like 3 of us or 4 of us.
Yeah.
It was a small company. And so I was actually let go, which was such a huge blessing because it was so clear that I was supposed to be doing something else. By that point, it was so clear. I mean, I had a massage table, delivered UPS to the office because I was never home. I was always at work. And, like my bosses saw that. They saw that I was taking these classes. They saw that I was teaching yoga. So I think it was really clear for
They knew
everybody
it was
around me.
coming.
Yeah, I think so. And then, I think I was the second to last person in our huge marketing department to be standing. And then I got my goodbye, and it was a scary moment because at that point I had actually never thought of being an entrepreneur. And I had a couple of job offers come in right away.
Mm-hmm.
And I just had this gut feeling that I was just like, I can't say yes to these because I get that I'm supposed to be doing something different. And even though it was terrifying to say no to the other, because I didn't have a lot of money. And so it was terrifying to say no, but I just had to keep the faith that like God was leading me in some direction for some reason.
Oh, absolutely. Now, did you take some time? So I remember I've only had one experience like this because when I was 17, I worked at Sizzler Steakhouse.
Yeah.
And my listener, you've heard the story before. So I worked at Sizzler. Didn't work out to be lead salad bar, so I wasn't as good as I thought I was. But I got picked up by these brothers who did mortgages and real estate, and I met one of the brothers when I was going to a meeting before high school when I was just before I turned 18. And I worked for them for almost 5 years, and I learned everything there was to know about mortgages, real estate, credit, all that stuff, and bought a lot of houses myself. And by the time I was 22 and I went to the seminar with Tony, we had that talk, and it was time. I knew in my mind, right? I had been moving into, I want to do something different. I wasn't as happy there as I was before. I knew there was something more I could do, and my boss felt it. I felt it. So I wasn't performing really well by the end, right?
Yeah.
So we had this conversation. Basically, I quit, but I say / got fired because basically he said, your time's up and I got to let you go. And but I remember sitting there for 5 days. Like distinctly, I remember it was 5 days. I'm sitting in my house going, I don't know what I'm going to do. Could I start my own thing? Should I do something different? Should I move? Should I, should I visit some other country? I was like, I don't know what to do. And I was freaking out. And then I just kind of calmed down. I remember it was like on the 5th day or the 6th morning, I just woke up and I had clarity and I said, oh, I'm just going to start my own business. And then I went to work that day. I picked the name and I got business cards and I just started. I don't know if that's a normal thing or not. Like, did you have a length of time? Did you have a moment when you went from like, I'm in turmoil to I'm clear? Or did you have any turmoil? Did you just kind of think it through peacefully and say, oh, everything works out for me? And then you started it. What was it like for you to go from getting the news to the transition to clarity of this is what I'm doing next?
Well, first of all, I felt like throwing up.
It's good to know that I'm not the only one.
No, oh my God. I just remember I felt like,
oh my
God.
Like you just got kicked in the stomach.
Yeah. Like it just feels so surreal. It feels so surreal. And even like, I mean, now it's not a big deal to like go to the grocery store in the middle of the day because I'm an entrepreneur and I call my own shots. But during those days, like
I remember.
Remember that feeling?
Yes.
Like, what are all these people doing at the grocery store in the middle of the day? Shouldn't they be at work? Like if you're used to working like to 8, in an office.
Absolutely.
I just tripped out. I tripped out a little bit. Like
it's like this is life at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah, like who's not in an office at 3 o'clock in the afternoon? Like what are these people thinking? So it was
I so remember that exactly.
Yeah, so it's kind of like my world turned upside down.
Mm-hmm.
And what I did, I think I was already taking classes at the time. Like I was already taking classes at the time, like holistic classes.
So you're doing the yoga and the massage and holistic classes and already in that track personally.
Yeah, I'm sorry, evenings and weekends. I was already doing that stuff anyways, just because I was interested in it. I didn't
Sure.
have any type of business. Like I had started to teach yoga at 24 Hour Fitness. And so,
I didn't know they had yoga at 24 Hour Fitness.
yeah, they do here because
Yeah.
every place has yoga down where I live.
Oh, San Diego. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course they
So
do.
I know, of course they do. So, I remember like my sister had recently had her first baby, and so she was like, "Oh, this is great! You can be our nanny." And I was like, "I don't think I'm supposed to be a nanny,
Right.
right?" Like, and so it was like so that was a little scary too, because it's like, do I help the family or do I listen to my gut?
Sure.
And so I ended up listening to my gut, which was completely and totally the right decision. And so it was just funny. I mean, it really felt like I got kicked in the stomach. I wanted to throw up, and then my whole world just kind of turned inside out. And so then what I did is I just upped how many classes I was taking at a time so that I could speed through and get my certifications.
Wow.
So I just stayed uber focused. And then what happened was he ended up being one of my business partners, but my friend's husband called me and he said, we have a space. They had a healing center and somebody had left and they had an open room. And this happened like the next week. And he called me out of the blue and he said, "We have a spot that's open and I really think you're ready for this."
Wow.
And I was like, "I don't know. Like, are you sure you think I'm ready for it?" Like he should know, right? But he's like, "Yeah, I mean, he had such strength and such conviction. He's like, "I really think you're ready for this." And
Wow.
so I said, "Okay, I'll take it." And so I started paying rent on this room like right away before I had a clientele. And then I think I went probably to Kinko's and just made flyers. And at my next my yoga classes, I was like passing them out and I was saying, "Oh my God, 50% off your first massage." And they all came. Like I instantly had like a pretty full schedule from my yoga clients
Of course they did, Kerry.
who had learned to trust me, right?
Sure.
And so it all just kind of happened it just happened.
Hmm.
With that being said, it definitely, as you know, as a business owner, it has not always been easy. There
Yeah.
were many times where I had a very open calendar and I just would pray like, "Okay, how's it going to fill up?" And I would kind of gamify it with God. Like, "Can't wait to see how you get me my next 12 appointments."
That's
I
awesome.
remember doing that. And then it just led to another natural progression after I had done the trauma resolution for years and done
Sure.
the body work and started to just naturally started to counsel my clients on nutrition and mindset because they're on my table and they're asking for help. And so that's kind of how that happened. And then I realized like, wow, this is a whole another offering that I'm just including in these massages, and I can actually pull this out as a standalone. And started to do that, and then met those very successful people on the internet and doing internet work, and then that just led to the next chapter again.
That is awesome. And one of the things that I think that I'm really excited about that I love is the proliferation, what a fun word, of information, and with the freedom of information, with there's so much education at our fingertips. My friend AG, I don't know if you know AG Morishita. Do you know him?
No.
Oh, you got to meet AG. He lives in Irvine, so he's in Orange County.
Okay.
But just a phenomenal thought leader. And one of the things he always says is the world is drowning in knowledge but thirsting for wisdom. And I just think,
Yeah.
man, what a true statement. There's never been more information in front of us, but sometimes it's challenging to channel and find the right stuff. So what I
Right.
love about what you've done with like the internet marketing space, combining with like health and holistic expert space, is you've brought them together. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited. I know we're coming up on time pretty quick, but I hope everyone, you've gotten a good idea of who Keri is, and this podcast is a lot about the driving force of who we are, right? And our origin story, how we got created. But equally as important is I want to be able to learn from the people. So if you want to learn from Keri, there's a great chance. I am actually part of something you're doing really quickly here. Super excited, right? It's
Super
called
pumped up.
the Global Health Summit.
Yeah.
So Kerry's doing a 3-week live every day. I want to tell us about that. It starts on June 4th, and
Yeah.
we're actually recording this on a Wednesday. This podcast, usually the interviews get backed up a little bit, but this one's going to drop tomorrow. So you should be listening to this or watching it Thursday, May 31st or beyond.
Cool.
So it's pretty quickly it's starting up, but it's a live health summit. What is a live health summit? How does it work? What's the deal?
Yeah.
Tell us about if no one has ever experienced that. Tell us what to expect. Um,
Yeah.
how does
Yeah, it's a rare opportunity. It's a really great opportunity. So, a live summit. So, what this is it is an online event that is currently free. So, sign up now. It's going to be free
oh cool.
all the way through the event,
Yeah.
and it's really where we look at, we put ourselves in the shoes of you. And so we work mainly with women, but we have a ton of men who come to the online summit as well. But we look at what are the conversations that we're really hearing people need support with, and then we choose themes. And so this is our 5th annual Global Health Summit, and the 3 themes that we're focusing on this year are weight loss, stress reduction, and hormone balancing.
Oh,
And
cool.
Matt, yeah, as you know, coming in as the mindset expert, the NLP expert, you really fit into 2 of them, stress reduction plus the weight loss, because you talked about the weight loss and how
Sure.
our mindset is affecting our weight, which obviously your stress is affecting your hormones. So it really all ties in together.
I guess, yeah, probably everything.
Yeah, but we're bringing in some of the top experts to really just share. And one of the things that we're really focused on is making it not complicated.
Yeah,
So we're
sure.
very focused on giving people, real solutions to real issues in a way where it's simple and easy, and you can take it and you can immediately apply it and start to see some results. And I'm so excited. The lineup is incredible this year. Matt, obviously you're one of our experts, and
It's a pretty incredible lineup. I mean,
it
I'm
is.
on there and everything, so it's
Yeah,
a good thing.
it's incredible. And we're doing something really fun this year. We're doing an online community where we're doing daily contests. We're giving away awesome prizes every day. We're giving away weight loss coaching, home study courses, gift cards. I mean, we've really upped the ante, and we're giving away a lot just to make sure that people are engaged and that we're giving as much as we can, even on a personal level.
Sure.
And there's just really nothing like it out there.
That is awesome. So it's called the Global Health Summit. Keri, this is going to be phenomenal. So it's 3 weeks. It's live every day, June 4th daily. And you said what happens is, you'll interview a speaker, and they'll teach on these subjects, and it'll go live at 6 a.m. Eastern time, but
Mm-hmm.
it'll stay live for 24 hours. So don't worry if you're in California, you don't have to wake up at 3 a.m. to watch this, but it'll go live at 3 a.m. Eastern time, and then it'll stay live for the next 24 hours. And then it'll be replaced. It'll be taken down, and the new speakers expert will go up the next day. And this will happen for 21 days, for 3 weeks in a row, right?
Yes. So, and the way that you get that link in your inbox is Matt's going to post the link here.
Yeah, so I'll
Okay.
put wherever you're watching this, consuming it or streaming it, it'll be in the show notes or the description. If you're on Facebook, right in the description, you'll see a link on there to go to Global Health Summit if you're interested in this. Be phenomenal, see what I'm talking about, meet some of the other experts, meet Keri. What a great opportunity. And again, you said during the Health Summit, it is free while it's here. Once it finishes, you may do something with the recording and make a product, or which clearly would be plenty valuable to make a product out of it.
Yeah.
But during the live summit, it is going to be free to attend.
Right. Totally. It's free to attend. If, we've put together a special package, if you want to own it, if you want some other things that we've thrown in, great, you can do that. A part of the proceeds are going to help underserviced women and children. You do not have to do that, but
Awesome.
if it's something that you want to do, that's great. Not only do you get to up your level of commitment to your own health, but you also get to go help somebody else in need, which is awesome. And but it is free. And so just click the link that is in the show notes. And by doing that and giving us, make sure you type in your email properly. Make sure you don't have any typos. And then we're going to send you in your inbox every morning, 6 a.m. Eastern. We send you the link to that day's interview. It'll be live for 24 hours, as Matt said. And then the next interview comes on. Matt's interview is awesome, you guys. You do not want to miss it. He is like sharing it all. And so you definitely want to get another extra dose of Matt.
Which
And
I heard it was really, really good. I got a lot of
it's
reviews
really, really good.
yeah, for myself. I got a lot of reviews. I think it was a lot of fun. Do type your email right, because we were recording. We were about 5 minutes late to start recording this because I literally went to invite Keri to invite you to the Zoom room where we're recording it, and I missed like the T in your name, so I'm writing Kerry Tepedino instead of Tepedino.
I know.
So
He's like, where are
so
you? I'm like, I'm waiting for the link.
I sent it. So yeah, so it's pretty easy to miss that. So make sure you do that right. Keri, it was an absolute honor, pleasure to connect with you, and also really cool to get to know you another level, and just hear more about your story. And I know we're not going to stop there. Every time we get to hang out, it's a pleasure and a ton of fun. So thanks for coming on the podcast. Thank you again for inviting me out to the Global Health Summit. I hope everyone takes you up on it. Have an awesome day, and I will see you sometime soon, right?
Yeah, you're going to see me alone. We have a couple of speaking gigs together, and I just want to say thank you so much for having me, Matt. This was a very different interview. I don't know if I've really been asked all the details that you've asked, and bringing up like the high school moment, bringing up the college moment, bringing up like how bulimia kind of landed in my lap. At the moment, it seems like a trial, but in the long run, it really turned out to be a gift. Those moments don't usually come up. Those discussions don't usually come up in interviews. And so I really, I thank you and I appreciate you for acknowledging the whole journey. And because it really did take that whole journey to get here. So thank you.
Well, I think people, if you're listening, I'm sure you probably appreciated that as well. And I'm sure right now you're in your car and nodding your head, or lying in bed on a Facebook stream and saying, yes, that's probably true. So thanks again, Keri. I appreciate your time.
Yeah. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Awesome. Thank you, Keri. My thanks to Kerry Tepedino for making the time and coming over on Zoom with me. I hope you enjoyed that interview. I especially loved towards the end. She kept talking about how, I usually don't get into this part of my story. I usually don't talk about that. And I really liked that, that during our time, we just start talking about what comes up, and I'm asking questions that I'm genuinely curious about, So if you want more about Keri and about or even if you want more interviews like that, make sure you find me on social media. Find me I'm at Matt Brauning. If you haven't already, I'm on Facebook, Matt Brauning at YouTube. I'm on the Instagram, trying to get that rolling, even though I'm 38, trying to get that going for my millennial crowd. Even on the Twitter a little bit. So follow me on there and feel free to comment or message me. I love getting messages. And let me know if you have ideas for the podcast, or if you a particular guest you want, or anyone to introduce me to, or if you think you're a great guest, make sure you let me know. If you want to find out more about Keri, of course, it's going to be in the show notes. There'll be some descriptions and some links to Keri's site. You can find out all about the Global Health Summit if you want to participate in that. That's coming up. If you're listening to this live, it'll be just in a few days. Less than a week, the first interview goes live. Remember, it is 3 weeks. Every day is a new live interview, and I'll be in there as well. So if you want to catch how I weave in NLP and weight loss and health and get my freebie, which is going to be an NLP technique called the Junk Food Eliminator. I may have called it something different on there, but I'm calling it the Junk Food Eliminator, and how to get rid of junk food cravings. Really, really cool, sweet way to do that. So that's all available for you. I think that's it for this week. Very excited. I'm going to come back next Monday, and I think next Monday we might actually do another interview. And I'll start swapping. I'll do Mondays live on, I'm going to do this. I'm just going to come out right now, right here, and tell you. Mondays, I'm going to be on Facebook Live at Matt Brauning, so you can follow me there. I've been going on my personal profile just for more engagement as I'm building up more and more friends. So my personal profile is M Brauning, but either way, go on there. You'll get notified either way. I go live on Mondays on Facebook, and I do a podcast recording there to teach. And then that episode from now on will actually drop on Thursdays. Okay, so I've been dropping it on Tuesday. The Monday live is going to drop on Thursdays now during the week. And then sometime during the week, probably on Thursday, I'll do an interview, and that interview will drop for you Monday to start your week. So I'll have interviews on Monday, but also I'll have the Mondays with Matt will go live. So we'll drop the interview Monday, and then the Facebook nugget will drop for you on Thursday. So look forward to that, and I'll catch you on Monday. Take care.